Welcome to the Matt Bernier Show.
That's good. Welcome in the Matt Bernier Show here, March the 10th. It's a Friday. It's noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. As usual, that's how you find this show. We're sponsored this week by our friends down at Tampa Bay Downs. A giant day of racing Saturday afternoon down at Tampa Bay Downs, highlighted by their main event of the entire meeting. It's the Grade 2 Tampa Bay Derby. We'll dive into that momentarily. We're going to keep this open short here this week because we've got a lot we want to dive into. 4 stakes that we'll preview for you. We'll also go back and see how we did last week. Again, if you're watching this show live, you have live.drf.com, you have livestream.com, Twitter and Facebook, both on the Daily Racing Forum. Sides of things, if you listen podcast version, YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, video.drf.com. Plenty of ways for you to find this show here. If you want to tweet at me, please fire away at Bernier_Matt on Twitter. It's snowy here in New York. Hopefully everywhere else it's going to be a little bit calmer this weekend as far as racing is concerned. Oaklawn looks like it may be a little bit wet tomorrow. We'll have that for you as well on DRF Live tomorrow starting at 4 o'clock Eastern. We'll dive into that at the end of the show, though. Again, going back to the top, we're going to keep the open short here, and you see if you watch this show visually, you see on the sidebar we normally have the topics listed for you. It's the exact same topic I led with last weekend, stability, because I came into last weekend hopeful that these 3-year-old boys would sort of level off, kind of even themselves out. Talent, not the question. Right now, all these figures that these horses are earning, they're all very, very competitive for this time of year, and it's too early to tell how good these horses ultimately would be, don't get me wrong, but it's nice to see, it's encouraging anyway, that maybe we've got a pretty solid group of 3-year-olds thus far. I was hoping we would get a little bit of evening. And unfortunately, going into last weekend, it was a scenario where Irish War Cry, there were a fair amount of people that said, you know what, he is the real deal, myself included. I thought he was legitimate. There were also a fair amount of people that went in and said he had everything his own way on the front end down in the Holy Bull. His main competition in Classic Empire kind of stubbed his toe. Gunnevera, his other main competitor, was kind of taken out of his game, had to be a little bit closer to the pace. He's got to prove it to me at a short price. What does he do? He goes out and kind of throws in a bit of a clunker, and no one really knows why. This horse is too good to think that that's actually what he is. Graham Motion, his trainer, obviously world class. Won the Kentucky Derby, has won the Dubai World Cup, won all sorts of graded stakes races. He even said it, not entirely sure what the situation is. I wouldn't give up on this horse just yet, simply because we know what he's done. We've seen him in the past. It looks like he is the goods. On the flip side, up here in New York, El Arib, he hadn't done anything wrong. He just continued to rattle off nice mid-90 buyers. But I think everyone had a little bit of trepidation when it came to him as far as really, truly buying into him. I'll admit I started to buy into him because I thought he hadn't really done anything wrong. He had answered every call. He had won from out on the pace. He had won from just off of it. And then he goes up there this past weekend, and I don't want to say he laid an egg, because he was pushed for the first time in his life. So that's a little bit of a concern that he didn't answer the call. But there was a pretty hot pace when you consider the wind factor that we had up here in New York last Saturday afternoon. He fades and runs third. Now, the good thing down in Florida with Irish War Cry kind of, having his issue, Gunnevera came through with a big effort. Gunnevera, I think a lot of people looked at and said, he's a legitimate horse. He may not be a superstar, but he fits as far as Derby contenders are concerned. Florida kind of, I don't want to say entirely did what I was hoping. They kind of stabilized things, leveled off a little bit. New York kind of did the opposite. A horse that I liked as a 2-year-old, and he just never really, I didn't think he was moving forward. J. Boy's Echo comes through with a giant effort. I'm a little dubious of the 1-2 Buyer speed figure he earns in that spot, but he's won all of a sudden now. You look at the pedigree, you look at the running style, you look at the connections with Dale Roman and Robbie Alvarado. He looks like he checks all the boxes, but there's a part of me that's a little bit dubious. I almost would have rather a horse like Cloud Computing for Chad Brown, who ran a giant race in his first time going 2 turns. I almost would have rather he got the job done, because there was a lot of talk about him, and Chad's handled him in just 2 lifetime starts like he's a very nice horse. So New York didn't really do what I was hoping, the New York group. I was hoping for a little bit more stability than we got. Don't think we really got it. So that leads us to this weekend. Tampa Bay Downs, obviously, again, our sponsor. Thank you for that. Our friends down in Oldsmar, you have the Tampa Bay Derby. There's a big opportunity for some of those horses, particularly the ones coming out of the Sam F. Davis, to really solidify themselves as Derby contenders. And in Southern California, we'll talk about it. I think thus far the best 3-year-old prep of the season. You've got a big showdown in the San Felipe with Mastery making his 3-year-old debut, Gormley coming back out of his score in the Sham, and Iliad trying 2 turns for the first time for Doug O'Neill. I think that top to bottom, it may not be a huge field. There's only 7 that are going to go, and really the top 3 are really head and shoulders above the rest of the body. This is the first prep for me anyway that's going to go a long way in saying, all right, let's see. If all 3 of them do what they're supposed to do, I think that's a pretty solid group. If Iliad jumps up in a big way, maybe we really need to reassess him a little bit. Not reassess, but look at him a little bit deeper and harder and say maybe he belongs in some sort of a upper tier as far as Derby contenders are concerned. If one of those 3 doesn't win and something else ridiculous happens down in Tampa, I don't know. I'm not questioning the quality. Again, we've got nice animals. It's just chaos. It seems like there's week after week, it's a war of attrition at this point. So we'll find out, wait and see. Big day of racing again tomorrow afternoon down at Tampa Bay Downs. They're our sponsor for the Matt Bernier Show this week. A big day of racing. It's Big Cap Day out at Santa Anita. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll do a quick review, a little bit more in depth of the 2 3-year-old preps from last week and the Gotham and the Fountain of Youth. Then we'll take a quick break and we'll get right back into all the stakes previews. We've got San Felipe, Tampa Bay Derby, and a couple other big races. Stay with us, the Matt Bernier Show.
California Chrome, straight and strong. Absolutely sensational. California Chrome. California Chrome. To California Chrome. All the way to the Kentucky Derby. California Chrome wins impressively.
He's gone into overdrive. California Chrome wins the Dubai World Cup.
One of the greatest performances you'll ever see.
Chrome turns to gold.
Say goodbye to your inner caveman. If you're making caveman bets on pick sixes, you could be leaving money on the table. DRF Bets Ticket Maker helps you build more profitable exotic bets and place them with one click. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticket Maker. Be a samurai with your ROI. DRF Bets Ticket Maker helps you cut out unprofitable exotic bets before they happen and be the master of profits. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticket Maker, the exotic wagering app.
Well, the amazing thing about our work was just how similar he is to Uncle Mo. I mean, right away, of all of Rapoli's babies, he stood out as the most advanced, the most precocious, and the most talented, and that was exactly the same thing we'd seen a few years before with Uncle Mo.
Outwork wins it for John Velasquez.
To be able to win a Grade 1 like the Wood Memorial in only his 4th lifetime start was very impressive.
It is Outwork in front. Win the winner of the Gun Handicap.
This horse is the complete package. He's won from 7 furlongs to 1.1 miles. He's won on dual surfaces. He's won with and without Lasix, and he's traveled around the world and brought his A game with him.
He showed that he was a very top-class dirt horse.
Balance is key, and he was just perfectly proportioned. I think that's what made him so athletic and so efficient on the track.
12:08 on the East Coast, 9:08 on the West Coast, the Matt Bernier Show on DRF TV, live.drf.com, livestream.com. We're sponsored this week by our friends down at Tampa Bay Downs. Big day of racing. We'll dive into the preview in a little bit for some of those races down at Tampa Bay Downs. First, let's look back and see how we did last weekend. We're only going to go through it really quickly because I only went over the 2 big 3-year-old preps, went over the Gotham, went over the Fountain of Youth. Let's start off up here in New York. Going into the race, I thought El Arib, again, I finally started to buy into him a little bit. I didn't love him at the price. You knew he was going to be very, very short. I didn't think 2 to 5 short, but I thought he was the most likely winner in the race, and I thought a live long shot coming in from Southern California for Doug O'Neill would have been so conflated. He goes off at 8 to 1, whether you really, and I even said it, I don't know that that's truly what I would consider a live long shot. I just think that's a middle price. Let's see what happens at the top of the lane. Take it from home.
El Arib with plenty of company turning for home, and just like that off the turn, J-Boy's Echo has taken charge. Cloud Computing fights on. El Arib checked toward the inside and is giving it up late. Racing for the 8th pole, J-Boy's Echo has gone clear now by 2, now by 3. Cloud Computing angles outside for a final try, but J-Boy's Echo is gone in the Gotham. J-Boy's Echo from off the pace wins it by 3. Solid effort from Cloud Computing to be second by another 5. El Arib managed 3rd. Action Every Day was 4th.
I thought it was a good effort from J-Boy's Echo. The 102 buyer, I'm not sure that I'm entirely sold on that, but Hey, look, he continues to slowly get better, and I almost feel like a dummy, like maybe I got off a little bit too early because his debut at Keeneland, if you haven't seen it, go back and watch it. That to me is the hallmark of a horse that has a little bit of ability. He had no business winning that race, but he did, and he did so going away. So maybe he's finally putting it together. Again, he's got the connections in his corner, Dale Romans. You got Robbie Alvarado up. It was a good effort. Cloud Computing ran very, very well in second. Third, El Arib, I don't want to be too hard on him. He's already overachieved, I think, as far as distance is concerned. He's a multiple graded stakes winner. I think he's earned the right to go on to a race like the Wood Memorial. I wouldn't draw a line through that at all just because of this effort here. He got cooked on what was probably a faster than it looks at face value pace. I don't want to draw a line through him just yet. As far as my own handicapping in the race, disaster. El Arib finishes third at 2-5. So conflated, never picked his feet up. He was a little bit rambunctious in the gate, but he was terrible at 8-1. He finishes sixth in a field of 7. Let's go down to South Florida. You got the Fountain of Youth. Irish War Cry, I thought he was the most likely winner going into it. He went off as the even money favorite, and I thought, unfortunately, a live long shot was Huracan Americo, and we'll talk about it already right now. He unfortunately took a bad step, and he was euthanized, the South American import. So let's take a look from the top of the lane, the Fountain of Youth.
Gunnevera looms large off the speed as they turn for home with a short stretch to work with. With the lead, it's Practical Joke, but Gunnevera over the top is on to the front now. 3 Rules battles on gamely. These 3 well clear of the others, but it will be Gunnevera and Javier Castellano moving clear. Gunnevera for local trainer Antonio Sano romps in the Fountain of Youth. Practical Joke second, 3 Rules third, fourth, Talk Logistics.
Really good effort from Gunnevera. I understand maybe he had the pace that set him up and it really accentuated that late kick, but I don't think you could ask for anything more if you're the connections. Antonio Sano's done a tremendous job with this horse. He has all the bottom in the world. You look at all these route races that he's got under his belt, it sounds like he's going to come back in the Florida Derby, and I think he should. That's a big race. It's a grade 1. You notch that under your belt, you're already going to be made as a stallion. This horse has done nothing wrong. All he does is go out, and he's got a beautiful running style that you would like to think is going to suit a race like the Kentucky Derby. We know Javier aboard. That's never a bad thing. The best rider in the country, arguably. I think there's a lot to like about Gunnevera. Don't write off Irish War Cry because of one effort. He's much better than that. We've seen that. He's done some things already on the racetrack that horses, you know, if you didn't have any ability, you wouldn't be able to do what he's already done. I think it was a good effort from him. A giant effort from 3 Rules, considering he was up on that pace and he faded a little bit late. Whether they go in the Florida Derby or not remains to be seen, but it sounds like they're leaning toward Preakness rather than Kentucky Derby. I think that's a brilliant call. Again, we talk about new shooters, they don't fare very well. That's usually with horses that are late developing. 3 Rules is a horse that has proven, and again, he has proven me wrong. I've never loved him, but I'm starting to buy into him as well. I think the shorter distance at 1 3/16 is going to suit him a little bit better than 1 1/4. I still think he's a one-turn kind of horse, but a good effort from him, as well as Chad Brown's horse off the bench, Practical Joke. He ran very, very well. I think all things considered, a good effort and a good starting off point for his 3-year-old campaign for Brown and Klarovich. I told you we're going to rip through the preview. The handicapping for me, not very good. We're going to try and right the ship this week. 4 races we'll go over, 2 from Tampa Bay Downs, but we'll start off in Southern California when we come back in the Matt Bernier Show. 2 races, San Felipe, San Anita Handicap. Stay with us.
California Chrome, straight and strong. Absolutely sensational. California Chrome. California Chrome. To California Chrome. Away to the Kentucky Derby. California Chrome wins impressively.
He's gone into overdrive. California Chrome wins the Dubai World Cup.
One of the greatest performances you'll ever see.
Chrome turns to gold.
Say goodbye to your inner caveman. If you're making caveman bets on pick sixes, you could be leaving money on the table. DRF Bets Ticketmaker helps you build more profitable exotic bets and place them with one click. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticketmaker. Be a samurai with your ROI. DRF Bets Ticketmaker helps you cut out unprofitable exotic bets before they happen and be the master of profits. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticketmaker, the exotic wagering app.
Well, the amazing thing about our work was just how similar he is to Uncle Mo. I mean, right away, of all of Rapoli's babies, he stood out as the most advanced, the most precocious, and the most talented, and that was exactly the same thing we'd seen a few years before with Uncle Mo.
Outwork wins it for John Velasquez.
To be able to win a grade 1 like the Wood Memorial in only his 4th lifetime start was very impressive.
It is Outwork in front.
to win the winner of the Gun Handicap.
This horse is the complete package. He's won from 7 furlongs to 1.1 miles. He's won on dual surfaces. He's won with and without Lasix, and he's traveled around the world and brought his A game with him.
He showed that he was a very top-class dirt horse.
Balance is key, and he was just perfectly proportioned. I think that's what made him so athletic and so efficient on the track.
12:15 on the East, 9:15 on the West. The Matt Bernier Show on DRF TV, live.drf.com, livestream.com, Twitter, and Facebook. We're presented by our friends at Tampa Bay Downs this week. Before we get to Tampa Bay Downs, big weekend of racing, big Saturday, I should say, at the great race place, Santa Anita Park. You've got 3 Grade 1s on tap, as well as a primetime Kentucky Derby prep. Let's start off with the Kentucky Derby prep. It's race number 5. We're going to take a look right now, if you're watching along with us, at the entry card, along with my odds for the Grade 2, San Felipe Stakes, mile and 16th on the dirt. Now, if you're new to watching this show, this is how we do things on the far side. It's not the morning line odds, my odds, what I think is fair value. Right in order, Term of Art 32-1, Vending Machine 24-1, Ann Arbor Ready 12-1, Mastery 2-1, Gormley 2-1, Iliad 4-1, Bluegrass Envy. I made 99-1 because I don't go into fractionals. I use whole numbers, but if I were using fractionals, that horse could easily be 300-1. Connection want to take a shot. It's their prerogative. I'm not going to argue with that. I think this is the best prep race, as I said at the top of the show, that we've seen thus far. I almost wonder if it'll be the best we see going forward, because you have 2 Grade 1 winners in this field. One of them is Mastery, one of them is Gormley. I think the most likely winner in the race is Mastery for Bob Baffert. We're going to take a look at his Grade 1 score in the Los Alamitos Futurity. He absolutely destroys this field. Now, I understand maybe he didn't beat a heck of a lot, but he took some heat early on. He went 45 and change, and right now I get IRAP is not a very good horse thus far, but on the far outside he took his shot. Mike Smith hits Mastery left-handed. He rebreaks, opens up by just going away lengths. 7 and change, I believe, was the final margin for him. He gets a giant buyer speed figure. He gets a giant Timeform US rating. He's done nothing wrong. He's 3 for 3 at 3 different racetracks at 3 different distances. That's something that's very difficult for horses to do, particularly as 2-year-olds. I didn't love that Baffert was going back and forth with the blinkers on and off, but at the end of the day, Bob Baffert knows a heck of a lot more than I do about what a horse needs and what a horse doesn't need. This horse certainly has the ability. He's been training right along. He hasn't missed any time. Baffert has said he's been ready and waiting for this race here. I think this is all systems go for Mastery. Having said that, I'm also going to call him a vulnerable favorite. And I understand maybe it sounds a little bit contradictory, but hear me out now. I have he and Gormley tied as the most likely winner on points. You saw the value line at 2-1, but I have them both at 32% out of 100% as far as the value line is concerned. The reason I'm considering him potentially a vulnerable favorite is because he's not going up against a weak field. He's going up against, by far, the toughest field he's ever faced in his career, and Gormley in his own right. Gormley is a legitimate Grade 1 animal. His win in the Sham Stakes, going a mile over a sloppy track, I like that he was able to relax a little bit. And I know it was just a smidge. It's not like he came from 5 out of it. He sat just off of American Anthem, another very, very talented Bob Baffert trainee, and he went on with it and dug in gamely. I thought it was a really good effort, and I think quite highly of American Anthem. So I like Gormley as a 2-year-old. I think there's a lot to like here. And again, the reason that I'm considering Mastery both the most likely winner, and I do, I think he is, I have them both at 32%, but if I had to give the nod as far as most likely winner to one of the two, I would give it slightly to Mastery. But I think he's a vulnerable favorite because he's never faced a horse like Gormley in his career. And I haven't even talked about Iliad, who, if he can successfully stretch out, he has brilliant early speed. He's shown that he can sit a little bit. I would imagine Flavien Prat is going to say, go on with it, son. Clear off to the front and let these things try to come and catch us, whether it's Mastery or Gormley. I think Gormley's also going to try to make the front. So it could turn into a bit of a cat and mouse game. I don't think there's any question. Gormley, Victor Espinoza, I think they want to sit just off of those two, let them go and try and duel each other into submission, try to take advantage, turn them for home. A really, really fun race in the San Felipe. Let's take a look at the big one, the granddaddy of them all, the Santa Anita Handicap. It is the penultimate race on a fantastic day of racing, fantastic Saturday of racing. The final race will be the China Doll, but let's take a look at the field for the Santa Anita Handicap. You've got a field of 9 signed on in here. All eyes are going to be on the number 1 and the number 3. The 1 is Midnight Storm. I made him 5-2. The 3 is Shaman, goes to 3-1. I'll go right through for you. Gangster 24-1. Shaman goes 3-1. Isotherm 10-1. Hard Ace is 19-1. Follow Me Crowd 16-1. 20/20 Vision 32-1. High Happy 8-1. Imperative 9-1. I think the most likely winner in the race is Midnight Storm, simply because, one, you can make the argument he's the most talented horse overall. You can make the case that Shaman Ghost to 3 is the most talented dirt horse, but pure quality, you can make the case that Midnight Storm is the most talented runner in the race. More importantly, he looks like he is loose as he wants on the front end, and that can be very, very tough for anyone else to run him down. We're going to take a look at his New Year's Day score. This is in the San Pasquale. Arrowgate was supposed to be in this race. They scratched because of the weather. You see those fractions: 23, 45, and 2, 8 and 4, and he draws off from a nice field. You have Accelerate in here. You know, you got a couple of decent ones. I understand Dalmore, maybe he hasn't really lived up to top billing, but this is a big effort, I thought, all things considered. The question for anyone that's buying in, not necessarily buying in, for that's really in love with Midnight Storm tomorrow afternoon, can he go 10 furlongs? Is 10 furlongs really what he wants, or is he better off between a mile and an eighth? I think he has a world of ability. I've had a I've never hated him, but I've had a love and not so love sort of relationship with this horse throughout his career. I'm back on him. I love him. I think he is the most likely winner in the race. But if he can't see out the distance, and I don't care the fact that he is loose, I think the horse that should be closest to him in attendance is my live long shot, and that's High Happy. Now, I liked High Happy in his most recent start on the turf in the San Marcos, and he was lit up like a Christmas tree. He was a sweaty mess throughout. He looked like he was beaten at the half-mile pole, and he still somehow stuck around to run fourth. He's a Group 1 winner on dirt in Argentina as well. It's not just that he's a dirt horse, or a turf horse, I should say. He has been proven on the main track in the past. I'm going to give him another shot. I actually picked him in the stakes preview. You can find all those and more, video.drf.com. I think Midnight Storm is way the horse to beat. I love Shaman Ghost. I think he's a really nice horse. 1.25 miles, I think, is his bread and butter. Live long shot, I'll take a shot with High Happy to try to upset the apple cart in the big cap at Santa Anita. Again, a tremendous day of racing. We will have shortly anyway, if you're watching this live on Friday afternoon, a pick 4 sequence, $1 million guaranteed. Myself and Mike Beer will have that up on video.drf.com later on this afternoon. We're going to take the final break. I know we've had a lot of breaks here today, but I had to try to lay this thing out. The final break here when we come back on the Matt Bernier Show, presented by our friends at Tampa Bay Downs. We'll go to Tampa Bay Downs. 2 really nice stakes races, highlighted by the big one for the folks down in Oldsmar. It's the Grade 2 Tampa Bay Derby. Kentucky Derby qualifying points on the line. Stay with us.
California Chrome, straight and strong. Absolutely sensational. California Chrome. California Chrome. Away to the Kentucky Derby. California Chrome wins impressively.
He's gone into overdrive. California Chrome wins the Dubai World Cup.
One of the greatest performances you'll ever see.
Chrome turns to gold.
Say goodbye to your inner caveman. If you're making caveman bets on pick sixes, you could be leaving money on the table. DRF Bets Ticketmaker helps you build more profitable exotic bets and place them with one click. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticketmaker. Be a samurai with your ROI. DRF Bets Ticketmaker helps you cut out unprofitable exotic bets before they happen and be the master of profits. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticketmaker, the exotic wagering app.
12:23 in the east, 9:23 in the west. We're done with the breaks. We're back here on the Matt Bernier Show, presented by Tampa Bay Downs. If you're watching on live.drf.com, livestream.com, Twitter, Facebook, thank you for doing so. The podcast, you know where to find it: iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, video.drf.com. Our presenting sponsor, our friends down at Tampa Bay Downs. Big day of racing. It's the highlight, the main event of the Tampa Bay meeting. Let's start off first, though, with the Florida Oaks. Really fun field, 3-year-old fillies, mile and 16th on the turf course. Let's take a look at that field. It's got a field of 9 signed on in here. All eyes are going to be on La Coronel, the 5. And I'll bring them right down for you in post-position order. The 1, Valentine Wish, I made 99-1. No disrespect. The 2, Super Marina, 99-1. No disrespect. The 3, Dynatail, 8-1. Daddy's Little Darling, the 4, 10-1. La Coronel, 3-1. 55, 9-2. Tammet, 6-1. Like a Hurricane, 32-1. And Compelled, 9-2. You have a lot of quality in this field. And as I said, all eyes will be on La Coronel simply because she's a supremely talented filly for Mark Casse. Mark Casse has been blessed with really, really good girls on the turf over the past handful of years. Obviously, Tepin is first and foremost. Catch a Glimpse last year. This year, La Coronel. Now, her Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf, all things considered, was a phenomenal effort because she was hung wider than wide throughout. There was some pace signed on, don't get me wrong, but I mean, she had a brutal, brutal trip. Her run in the Jessamine, this is the one we're going to take a look at right now, was electric. She showed really nice tactical speed, and when Florent Giroux let her go, it was showtime. And she runs past a really nice filly. I believe that's Lull that she's going to just explode past. I think she's a really, really good filly. I'm going to go on a limb and say as a 2-year-old, she may be as good as Lady Eli was as a 2-year-old. And we didn't really get to see it in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf simply because that post really, really kind of screwed her over. She ran a big, big race that day. I think she has a world of ability. I'm not going to be surprised at all if she buries this field. I'm not picking her, though, and it's simply because I made her 3-1, and I know she's not going to be near 3-1. She might be closer to 6, 7 to 5 because everyone has seen she has giant, giant races on her page already as a 2-year-old, and you'd only think she's going to improve as she gets older. The horse that I'm most interested in, my pick, and I'm going to call her a live long shot, not knowing how they're truly going to bet the race, everyone outside of La Coronel. I like the 6, 55. I've liked 55 in each of her past 2 starts. 2 back up here at Gulfstream, I should say. 3 back at Aqueduct was a really impressive effort. 2 back at Gulfstream I thought was a very good effort. And most recently, she finished like a house of fire. I thought it was a good effort. She couldn't get the rims because she couldn't quite get to Compelled. But I'd like to think with the speed signed on in this race here in the Florida Oaks, I think it should set things up pretty well for 55. She's probably not as good as La Coronel, but she is a really nice filly in her own right. I have her as a live long shot. I made her 9-2. She is my pick in the Florida Oaks to go right along with La Coronel. That'll probably be my exacta. Let's get to the big one for the folks down at Oldsmar, the Tampa Bay Derby. It's a grade 2, a field of 10. Let's take a look at the field. Kentucky Derby qualifying points are on the line. And I think you've got to decide what you think of the Sam F. Davis, the local prep race for the Grade 2 Tampa Bay Derby. In post position order, Tale of Silence, 13-1. The Money Monster, 32-1. Basha, 32-1. No Dozing, 10-1. Taprit, 4-1. Beasley, 5-1. Sonic Mule, 10-1. State of Honor, 6-1 as we turn the page. Number 9 is Wild Shot, 5-1. Zion Valley. You know, again, I go back to the whole numbers for my percentages. If I could go less than 1%, I would, but I only go with 1%. So Zion Valley is 99-1. No disrespect. I think this race, again, it comes down to what you think of the Sam F. Davis. We're going to take a look at the Sam F. Davis right now. Taprit ran a good race in here. He's still very green. And obviously McCracken, it would have been nice if he hadn't had his little hiccup as far as his ankle was concerned. Sounds like he's okay. He's right back to training. He'll be pointing to the bluegrass. But Taprit is on the outside right now underneath Jose Ortiz in the orange cap, the number 7. And the way that he finishes really, really well. Now, the distance isn't going to be any different here than it was in the Sam F. Davis. I think this horse is going to appreciate more distance. I won't be surprised if he runs a good race, but I don't love him at a short number, and I imagine he's going to be in that 6, 7 to 5 range. I don't know that he deserves to be that short. The Beyer speed figure, if he runs a 73, he's going to be really tough to beat. Don't get me wrong, but I think he's not vulnerable. I think he's the most likely winner in the race by far, but and look at some other horses. I kind of prefer, out of that race, I like Wild Shot. I thought he ran very, very well considering he was off the pace. He's normally much closer to it, in attendance anyway. Beasley, a new shooter, is very, very interesting from Mark Henning. He ran such a game race against Battalion Runner most recently at Gulfstream. I think it's a good thing that they scratched him last weekend from the Fountain of Youth to come here. He figures to be forwardly placed throughout. My live long shot, I'm sure people are going to look at it and just start laughing and say, you're a dunce because this horse has no shot. But I like Tale of Silence a little bit down on the inside. This is a full brother to Tale of Acadi. Tale of Acadi obviously was a long distance sort. He won the Wood Memorial. He ran very well in the Kentucky Derby. Distance is only going to be Tale of Silence's friend. His biggest enemy thus far for Chuck Fipke and Barclay Tagg has been his mind. He's been a little bit on the green side, been a bit of a goofball. I thought his most recent race was very, very good. He ran into Malegacy, who was another highly thought of Todd Pletcher trainee. He was toward the back of the pack. He shot up the inside. He was well behind the Pletcher trainee, don't get me wrong. But he finished really, really well, galloped out nicely. I think distance is going to be his friend. He should get some pace to run at here. I don't think he's a likely win candidate, clearly. I made him 13-1. But he is my pick in this race because I just wanted a new, fresh face. And I think if he gets the pace, Two Turns is going to be his friend. I just need him to behave and act a little bit more professional, mature a little bit. Tale of Silence, I think, is an interesting runner, in the Grade 2 Tampa Bay Derby down at Tampa Bay Downs tomorrow afternoon. Again, a really fun day of racing down in Oldsmar, Florida. And there we are. Those are the 4 races that we went over this weekend. As always, next Friday we'll go back for better or for worse. Hopefully it's better than last Friday was for me as far as the handicapping is concerned. But again, 4 good races that we went over here on this show. Guess what? Tomorrow afternoon, starting at 4 o'clock Eastern, we've got even more good racing, quality racing top to bottom. Starting at 4 o'clock Eastern, let's take a look at the DRF Live slate. Myself and Mike Beer, we've got you the entire way. We'll come on at 4, we'll get you ready. Look at all the graded stakes races. And guess what? We round out with a 3-pack. All grade 1s, the Triple Bend, the Kill Road, the Santa Anita Handicap, right through about 3.5 hours, maybe a little bit longer, depending on how things go post-time wise. But as you can see, we have our friends down at Tampa Bay Downs in full flight. We have the late pick 4 that we've got for you. We'll have a video up later this afternoon, video.drf.com. You can check out that pick 4. But guess what? We'll cover the pick 4 live for you down at Tampa Bay Downs. Races 9 through 12, we'll round things out with the maiden special weight affair. Mixed in there, you've got a couple of nice stakes races at Oaklawn Park, the Grade 3 Honeybee, a really fun sprint race in the Hot Springs. Hopefully the weather cooperates with us down there, as well as kicking things off up here at Aqueduct with the Tom Fool. You've got the return of Green Grotto. Really good day of racing tomorrow, the final normal Saturday of DRF Live. Things will change a little bit, but I don't want to give away everything. I'll wait and let the chief, Dan Illman, let that news trickle out. He's down at Gulfstream for his Form Blog convention. They've got some good weather, it looks like. Hopefully they've got some good racing and they have some good luck as well. But again, tomorrow, Beer and I will have you through the entire thing starting at 4 o'clock Eastern. The Friday Formulator race of the day is a stakes race from Santa Anita. It's the Wishing Well going down the hill, 6.5 furlongs. The return of one of my favorite fillies, Illuminant. Should be a fun race. We'll send you to that momentarily. As always, again, if you watched live, live.drf.com, livestream.com, thank you for doing so. We have Twitter and Facebook that also live stream this bad boy. If you check it out, podcast version. If you want visuals, you have YouTube. You also have video.drf.com. If you just want to listen to this mediocre voice, you have SoundCloud, and you have iTunes. If you want to follow along and fire away at me on Twitter, at Bernier_Matt. I thank you all for watching and listening along. We also thank our sponsor, Tampa Bay Downs. I will catch up with you guys again next Friday on St. Patrick's Day. Best of luck this weekend. I'll talk to you again tomorrow, live, 4 o'clock Eastern, live.drf.com. Without further ado, it's the Friday Formulator race of the day, the Wishing Well from Santa Anita. Best of luck.